All right, guys, today I want to talk to you on the subject of beliefs. Okay, now this is not a me versus you kind of a video. I'm not here to try to win you over to my side of things. I'm not even particularly interested in the details of what you might believe. So I'm not going to be telling you that you're wrong and I'm right. But I do want to challenge you with two different questions and share three thoughts with you that I think will help you immensely. It's something I've learned a long time ago, and I've carried it with me all these years, and I think it's probably about high time I gave it to you. Now, the first question is, do you know what you believe about fill in the blank? Okay, you fill in the blank. Do you know what you believe about X? It could be about where you stand politically or philosophically or spiritually. It could be what you believe about someone else or about the world in general. Okay, but what do you know what you believe about these things? And number two, are you able to articulate what you believe when you're confronted, when you're having a discussion with somebody? All right. Now, what prompted this video is a quote by a journalist named Haywood Campbell Brown. He died in 1936. Most of us, if not all of us, probably don't even know who he is. All right. But he said, without a belief, a man is helpless against the dragons. Did you get that? Without a belief, a man is helpless against the dragons. The imagery here is powerful. The dragons are those things that oppose us, that sweep down from on high and breathe fire. You feel it. It's not comfortable. It's actually quite harmful. At least that's our perception of it. But the other side of this is we're not completely helpless if we're armed, and we need to be armed with what we believe. But the problem we have so many times is that many of us have not thought about what we believe on a great deal of topics. And if we have, we haven't thought through them long enough to know how to discuss them. Now, here's why I say this. I've known plenty of people who were not necessarily raised in the same environment as maybe you, me, or somebody else, okay, where they were challenged from a small child to really think things through. Okay, that doesn't make one person better than another. It's just we had different upbringings, right? You may not have been challenged. And then, in many cases, as these kids got to be older, they got in schools and they might have been challenged in the wrong ways and formed the wrong beliefs. But more often than not, here's what I've learned, is that people who don't necessarily know what they believe and haven't ever been challenged to think things through, when they get into an environment or into a room or into a setting where discussions are being had, they will side with the most influential person in the room. They will mirror the strongest voice. Okay? Because they don't want to look like they don't belong. They don't want to look weak. Okay? So they will emulate the strongest figure in the room. And the problem with that is that people will eventually, if you're one of these people will eventually see the inconsistencies and they will perceive it as hypocrisy. When hypocrisy is not necessarily what it is, because you have to have something firm that you have abided by before to work against. But the truth is there was nothing there. So it's not really hypocrisy, it's just inconsistency. All right? And you'll lose the respect of your peers if this is the case. You'll be shunned. People will look at you sideways. They may not tell you to your face, or they may. And then you're going to feel really, really uncomfortable. The truth is you're always uncomfortable. The person who doesn't know what they believe, they don't really know who they are. And while they might seem agreeable, the flip side of the coin is they can oftentimes be very disagreeable. Okay, I found this out too. So they could go either way. And what I mean is these are the people that when they get into a discussion, they feel uncomfortable and you're asserting yourself, and you might not be thinking anything of it. You might be saying, well, this is what I believe on this or that or the other. Where do you stand? And they might become kind of hostile. And the reason why is because they don't know how to respond. And what they'll do oftentimes is they'll say, well, you can't possibly know what you're talking about. And if you can read between the lines, what you'll understand is they don't want you to think you don't know what you're talking about because they don't know what they're talking about. Okay, so they've got to try to convince you of that because that makes the conversation moot. All right, that to them that levels the playing field, and they walk away feeling just a little bit better. But they don't feel good, but they feel a little bit better about themselves than they did before because they feel like they shut you down. That's the whole premise, is that people who don't know what they believe will oftentimes try to shut people down, and they'll do it through being disagreeable. Okay, so there's that. Yeah, that's one of the things I've really discovered. But then you also have people who do know what they believe, but they haven't embraced it enough to know how to discuss these things. And this is where I want to be helpful. Okay, this is where I want to kind of share with you my 3 thoughts. Now, the first one is there's a difference between beliefs and interest. Okay, there's a difference between beliefs and interests. Many of us are interested in a wide variety of things. So we dabble, we meddle, or we discuss, or we watch, or we consume a lot of different things, and they kind of raise our eyebrows and pique our interest, and we say, well, that's really cool. And then we turn around, we regurgitate this information, and we talk about it as though we believe it. And we might even be convincing ourselves. But the truth is, we haven't thought things through enough to even believe things very strongly. So they're really just things we're interested in. But I think a lot of people confuse what they're interested in for what they believe. Now, you need to know the difference. So next time you find yourself in dialogue with someone else and you get that uncomfortable feeling, ask yourself, do I really know what I believe? Or is this just something I'm interested in? Now, you may not be interested at all. Okay. You might be very hostile to something because you don't like what's being talked about. But nevertheless, this scenario might pop up. You feel good about what's being discussed, but then all of a sudden you're like, well, I don't really know. It might just simply be an interest, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But learn to know the difference. The second thought that I had on this was I've learned a lot from having 2-year-olds. I got 4 kids that are grown. They were all in their, what they call the terrible twos. I don't think they're so terrible. But this is around the stage, when they begin to talk and be able to question things, they'll start asking why a lot. Now, you hear parents talk about how annoying this is, or maybe it's just the uncle. I don't know. But here's the thing. When I remember my kids were asking why, they could never get enough answers to their questions. And rather than letting it annoy me, I thought about this one day. I distinctly remember thinking this. What if I answered all of their whys, or their hows, or their whats? What if I really answered all that? What would I learn in the meantime? What would I learn about myself? What would I learn about the world around me? And so I started doing that, and it really taught me quite a bit. And I've applied this to all of my learning. In the meantime, continue to ask question after question after question. Never get tired of answering them, and take the responsibility upon yourself to ask yourself before somebody else does. If you can do that, you'll be able to articulate where you stand, because you can honestly say, I've thought things through. Now, the third thought I had about this was I remember someone so many years ago, and this might be more common than I realize, but someone took a piece of paper and challenged me to try to fold it more than 6 times. And I said, why? They said, because it's nearly impossible to fold any piece of paper more than 6 times. I said, really? That doesn't seem right. That doesn't seem plausible at all. They said, it doesn't matter how thin the paper is or how thick it is. You're probably not going to be able to fold it more than 6 times. I said, I'm going to try that. So I did. And, I think at first I had something that was a little bit thicker, and I realized, okay, well, this is just, I can't do it more than 6 times. Maybe I couldn't even gotten to 5 with that. I think it might have been like cardstock. I said, well, that's just because it's thick. Let me try a really thin piece of paper. I could not fold it 7 times. I could get 6, but I could not get 7. And so I thought, okay, well, I got to try this again. I got to keep trying it because surely it's something I'm doing wrong. It's like, nope. All you have to do is try to fold a piece of paper in half 7 times. So fold it in half, then fold it in half again. Continually fold it in half and see if you can get past 6. I never could. In fact, I just tried this over the last couple of days just to see if maybe I might be wrong. And I had, such thin paper that was ridiculous. And I thought, I know I'm going to get past 6 times. I could not. I could not fold it 7 times. Okay, so you might be wondering why I bring this up. Because it makes me think that there may be a commonality when I run across something that is closely tied to numbers and why numbers might be so important. I question how else that might be applied. So I thought about maybe this could apply to a line of questioning. When you're having discussion, I remember this with my kids when they were always asking why, that there comes a point when there is no more digging that needs to be made. It just becomes minutia. It just becomes, well, ridiculous. Okay, that there's no more getting down to the nitty gritty because you're already well past that. All right. So my thought here, my third thought on this is, fold your assertions, fold your beliefs in half by at least 6 times. Try for 7, but fold them in half 6 times. You can do that by questioning them. So take anything that you believe, like it could be, I don't believe in wearing a mask, or I don't believe in getting a certain kind of a vaccine, or it could be, I don't believe this spiritually or this politically, or I do believe something, I do believe this or that or the other. It could be either way. Ask yourself why. And then when you get the answer to that, ask why again, or ask how, or ask what. And I have found this has helped tremendously well. Okay? It has been invaluable to me. I have learned how to do this over and over again. And I'll tell you another place that this really helps is when you're talking to somebody else about what they believe. Now, I have spent many years, I wouldn't say debating people, but discussing with people what they believe. And in many cases, these are people that I did not agree with. Okay? People who had different religious beliefs than I did. And instead, I used to be very challenging. I used to be very, very confrontational. But I learned over time that it's better, instead of imposing my own will on somebody else, it's better to ask why. When somebody says, well, this is what I believe, or this is what we believe, why? Or how? How do you come to the conclusion of that? What does that mean? What does that word mean? Or where did this come from? But if you can ask these questions, if you can question their beliefs 6 times and maybe try to get to a 7th time, you might find out that they're starting to think different. They're starting to formulate things different in their mind, and that will get you so much further, or that will get them so much further than if you just say, no, I'm right, you're wrong, which you should never do. Okay, that you will never win anybody to your side of things by doing that. So I don't think that even if they don't agree with you in the end, it's still not good to say, well, I'm right and you're wrong. I think that if you've gotten the opportunity to question somebody like this or present questions like this, you've given them enough to think about. They will not forget that interaction. Okay? So if you don't want to, if you find yourself in the position where you don't want to feel cornered every time you have a discussion with somebody who's very strong in what they believe, and that can make you feel very insecure. If you're tired of that, take that as a learning experience and start asking yourself the questions and start formulating what you truly believe on anything. And it's a gold mine. It's a wonderful experience, and that fear goes away, because then at least you have a way of standing up against the dragon. Okay? Because there are people in this world whose whole career is finding the chinks in your armor. And the best way for you to do that is to challenge yourself by folding your beliefs in half 6 or 7 times if you can. And then What you learn is not only what you believe, but you learn how to respond, and you're no longer insecure in that. And then the other side of that is you learn how to discuss with other people what they believe, and possibly mentor, tutor them, and learning how to become stronger themselves. And this is a great way to interact with others, and I think it'll help you greatly. Let me just reiterate something really quick. You can learn a lot about yourself and about life by talking to 2-year-olds. You really can. This has really been the impetus behind my personal growth, is having children that constantly ask me why. Okay? So don't forget that. Next time you're confronted with something, you're feeling not so good about things because of what's being discussed. Think about 2-year-olds. Ask why over and over again, and I think it'll work out great for you. Anyway, I hope this has helped a lot. I hope this has meant something to you. Leave your comments down below. If you have questions about what I've talked about here today or on anything else, I would love to hear them. If there's something that you would like for me to discuss in upcoming videos, please leave your suggestions down below. I would love to hear them, and it would, if I know that I could speak to something that matters to you, then that would be wonderful to me. All right. Make sure you like the video, subscribe if you haven't done so already, and enjoy the rest of your day. Think, ruminate on these things, and take them to heart. All right, guys. I'll catch you in the next one. In the meantime, be wise.